Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are talking about a change that's happening right now, a transformation that's really on the scale of the Industrial Revolution. And it's all being driven by AI agents that are moving out of the lab and, well, right into the very fabric of our daily lives.
So let's just get right to it, because this is the big question, isn't it? The research we're looking at today argues that the sheer speed, the scale, and especially the autonomy of AI, it all presents this fundamental challenge to how we run our societies. And honestly, the stakes could not be higher.
All right, so to really get a handle on this massive challenge, first things first, we have to understand the core technology that's behind this whole shift. So let's break down what we're actually talking about here.
The key word, the one you really need to remember, is autonomy. We are not just talking about a smarter spell checker or a better recommendation engine here. No, we're talking about active systems, things that can perceive the world, learn from it, and then act, all on their own. And that ability to act independently is exactly what makes them so incredibly powerful and, potentially so difficult to control. And as these agents start to touch every single part of our lives, their impact becomes this classic double-edged sword. It's full of just unbelievable promise on one side and some pretty significant peril on the other.
On one hand, the economic promise is just mind-blowing. Goldman Sachs thinks AI could add almost $7 trillion to the global GDP. We're talking about the rise of a brand new agent economy, where these autonomous systems could be making deals at machine speed. But, on the other hand, we're facing the real danger of wage polarization. That's where middle-class, middle-skilled jobs just get hollowed out, which could make income inequality way worse, as most of the benefits flow up to the highest-skilled workers.
And the social trade-offs are just as dramatic. The promise is huge. Just imagine healthcare that could predict something like pancreatic cancer years earlier than we can now, or an education system that is perfectly tailored to every single student's unique needs. But the peril? It's just as profound. Could our constant back and forth with AI lead to something called empathy atrophy, where we kind of lose our human touch? And could we end up with a new AI literacy divide that just leaves whole communities totally behind?
And look, this isn't just some theoretical risk. This isn't a what if. This finding from ProPublica's investigation is a real-world gut punch of an example. When an AI is trained on our own biased historical data, it doesn't just mirror our society's flaws, it locks them in, and it amplifies them with frankly terrifying efficiency.
And you know what happens when the stakes are this high? It fuels an absolutely intense geopolitical competition. It's a new kind of arms race, really. A race for AI dominance.
Just look at this number. The U.S. is leading in private investment by a massive margin. But that doesn't tell the whole story. Not at all. China is closing the performance gap fast, and they already lead in the sheer number of AI research papers and patents. This is a fierce, head-to-head competition for control over what is going to be the 21st century's defining technology.
And the consequence of this race? Well, it's dangerous. It's creating what the sources are calling a digital iron curtain, where nations basically feel forced to pick a side, to align with either the U.S. or the China-led tech world. This makes it incredibly difficult to work together on shared global risks, like, say, preventing the development of so-called killer robots.
Which brings us to the most critical question of all. With all these risks, and with this intense global race, how in the world do we get this powerful technology under control?
Well, governance exists on a spectrum. It can start with companies just trying to regulate themselves. But as we've seen more and more high-profile failures, from bias hiring tools to accidents with autonomous cars, the global trend is shifting, and it's unmistakable. It's moving toward the other end of this spectrum, binding, enforceable, hard law.
Let's look at a concrete example. The EU's Landmark AI Act. It's really the leading global model for this hard law idea. And it works like a risk pyramid. So instead of some blanket ban, it targets the level of danger. Unacceptable risks, like government social scoring, banned, done. High-risk uses, like AI in hiring or law enforcement, they're allowed, but with super strict rules. Then you have things like chatbots, which have lighter transparency rules. It's all about focusing the scrutiny where it's needed most.
And no matter what specific approach a country takes, any effective system has to rest on these four pillars. You need fair and secure data.
You absolutely need to be able to explain why an AI made the decision it did. You have to know who's responsible when things go wrong. And, critically, you must always ensure a human can step in and pull the plug.
So, while the need for some kind of control is crystal clear, the path forward is, well, it's anything but. We're looking at a deeply fractured global landscape when it comes to writing the rules.
A single global standard seems pretty elusive right now, and that's because the major powers have fundamentally different goals. The EU is focused on an approach based on human rights. The US is prioritizing innovation and market leadership. China is using AI for state control, while a country like India is trying to chart its own path, focused on social good. These aren't just minor policy disagreements, they are deeply competing visions for what role technology should even play in society.
So if one single, static, global law isn't going to work, what will? The report argues for something it calls agile governance. What this means is creating foundational principles that last, but building in ways for the rules to be updated quickly. This would allow our regulations to evolve at the same breakneck speed as the AI they're supposed to govern. The government basically has to be as innovative as the technology.
And that brings us to the ultimate question. This isn't really about code or hardware in the end. It's about our values. As we build this new algorithmic world, the challenge for all of us is figuring out how to make sure that fairness, privacy, and accountability aren't just afterthoughts. How do we make sure they are programmed directly into the very core of this new society we're creating?